An elderly chef walks through a massive kitchen, approving various delicious dishes as he goes. A man named Gareng wakes up in a building and is told by his cellmate Trimagasi that this is level 48 and they are in a place called the pit. There are 2 people on every level of the prison and the inmates are knocked out and moved to a different level every month. Gareng is told that food is key in this prison. Trimagasi notes that the people below and the people above do not speak to each other. An alarm goes off and a massive food descends hole in the middle of it. Trimagasi begins gorging on the food while Gareng looks on in disgust. It is apparent that the food was lowered through the first 47 levels above them before reaching their cell. Gareng grabs an uneaten apple off the table and puts it in his pocket to eat later. As the table begins descending to the cell below, drinks the remaining injections. After the table fully descends to the next level, the cell starts becoming unbearably hot. Trimagasi explains that the food only belongs to them while the table is on their floor. As punishment for keeping the apple, the guards have turned up the heat. The heat only goes off once Gareng throws the apple down the hole to the table below. It turns out that Gareng volunteered to be in the pit for 6 months in exchange for receiving an accredited diploma. He eventually gets Trimagasi to share his story. The old man became enraged one day by a trivial matter and threw his TV out the window. The TV killed a person standing outside his apartment and he chose to be in the pit rather than in a psychiatric hospital. Trimagasi also shares that the lowest level he's been on is 132. He confirms that no food makes it down that far, but says he still found ways to eat. Gareng wants to yell up to the higher levels to conserve food, but Trimagasi says they won't listen to a communist. When Gareng yells downwards to the other inmates to conserve food, Trimagasi urinates on those below, saying they'll return the favor when he is placed to a level lower than them. Gareng shares that he brought a book, Don Quixote, with him to prison, while Trimagasi brought a knife. Gareng initially refuses to eat, but he eventually succumbs to hunger and joins Trimagasi at the table. One day, a dead body plummets down through the hole. Trimagasi explains that many people above commit suicide when they have all their needs met and have to focus solely on their situation and the things they have done to survive. Gareng is incensed at Trimagasi's cavalier attitude, as well as that of his fellow prisoners. He accuses Trimagasi of killing and eating his prior cellmate when they were on one of the lower levels. Trimagasi denies this and says his cellmate served his term and was released. He says they survived on the lower levels by cannibalizing the corpses that fell from above. One day, a woman is seated upon the table as it descends. Trimagasi explains that this woman is named Miharu, Alexandra Masinke, and is trying to find her young child, who is allegedly held somewhere therein. He says that she kills her cellmate every month, theorizing the body that fell may have been her cellmate's, in hopes she'll next be paired with her child. She descends on the platform as far as she can go every month in search of her child. When the table descends to level 49, the inmates there attempt to rape her. Gareng yells at them to stop. Miharu kills the 2 men and continues her descent. After many days, Gareng becomes less civil and more like Trimagasi. On their last night at level 47, Trimagasi admits he's come to like Gareng. Although he doesn't think Gareng has what it takes to survive his stay, Trimagasi says he only has 2 more months before his time is served. When Gareng awakens, he finds himself tied down to the bed with Trimagasi standing over him with his knife. They have been moved to level 171. People are screaming upon discovering where they are and several commit suicide by jumping down the hole. Trimagasi explains that if he hadn't bound Gareng, Gareng eventually would have killed him out of hunger as Gareng is younger and in better shape. Trimagasi plans to fast for as long as he can and slowly mutilate Gareng so they can both eat his flesh. When Gareng calls Trimagasi a murderer, he says it is the ones above them that have caused this. When the platform descends, not even bones remain on the table for them to eat. After a while, Trimagasi begins carving into Gareng's leg. Before Trimagasi can complete his mutilation, the platform arrives with Miharu on it. She wounds Trimagasi and frees Gareng. Now freed, Gareng kills Trimagasi. He and Miharu eat Trimagasi before she descends further down on the table. Gareng begins to hallucinate conversations with Trimagasi, who is now part of Gareng's body, and having sex with Miharu. Gareng barely survives to the end of the month. Gareng awakens to find a new cellmate named Imagery who has a dog with her. They find themselves on level 33. Imagery worked for the administration that runs the pit and the country outside before volunteering to be placed inside. She says that there are 200 levels and that if everyone ate only what they needed, there would be enough food to reach the bottom. The chefs also prepare the favorite foods of each inmate. Imagery states that the administration hopes that the members of the pit spontaneously come together for the good of all. If the people in the pit can sacrifice for each other, the administration will use that success to convince the people outside to do the same. As the table descends, Imagery asks the inmates what they need, but they ignore her. Imagery continues to plead with those on the level below to eat only what they need. They are only persuaded when Gareng threatens to defecate in the food. That said, they are unable to persuade those in the levels above their own to ration their food. Imagery believes that Gareng is the one who can bring the prisoners together to sacrifice for the common good. One day, Miharu is found deathly ill on the table. The pair treat her, but when Miharu awakens, she kills Imagery's dog. As Miharu descends and kills another convict that tries to assault her, Imagery says that Miharu's story is bogus. She says that Miharu voluntarily entered the pit, with no child, in exchange for help becoming the Asian Marilyn Monroe. To prove she is trustworthy, Imagery reveals she has cancer and signed up simply to try and help those inside. Imagery sinks into depression over the loss of their dog. After reassignment day, Gareng finds himself on level 202. When he awakens, he sees that Imagery has hung herself, likely due to learning that the administration lied to her about how deep the pit goes. There are more levels below him as well. Gareng tries to eat his book. Ultimately, he succumbs to cannibalism yet again, devouring Imagery's corpse. He now hallucinates conversations with Imagery and Trimagasi, who are now both a part of him, and the specters proclaim that he is the Messiah. The next month, Gareng awakens on level 6 with a man named Bharat, Emilio Bolle, as his new cellmate. Bharat has a rope with him and asks those above to help him climb to the top and out of the pit. The prisoners above mock him and defecate on him. Gareng, who calculated that there are roughly 250 levels while he was on level 202, proposes that the two descend on the platform and hand out food at each level. He theorizes that if the food makes it to the bottom, they will have beaten the system. If they fail, they can ride the platform back up. Bharat, being a pious man, agrees to the plan and they arm themselves for battle. As the pair begin their descent, they beat the other inmates back.
Against the wall! I won't say it again! Drop that right now, or I swear I'll kill you both!
They reach a level with a wise man that Bharat knows. The wise man says that the pair must make sure that at least one delicious dish is sent back up the platform uneaten. That uneaten dish will serve as a message to the administration that the pit has been conquered. They choose a panna cotta, a near-perfect dish, to be returned totally uneaten. The pair are successful in forcing the prisoners to conserve the food as they descend. They reach a floor where Miharu is being stabbed by two particularly vicious inmates. Gareng and Bharat attack and kill the vicious inmates, but not without suffering grievous wounds. Miharu dies from the stab wounds. As they continue to descend, they mainly find people who are dead on the lower levels. At level 330. At that level, they find the platform when it descends yet again. They give the panna cotta to the child and sleep. Injuries. The no food. Gareng caresses the child. Bottom. Says that he is. Platform begins its ascent to the top as Trimagasi assures delivering the message. So if